Like 2 years ago, when you had these early adopters, you had like relatively large companies thinking, hey, maybe we can replace our PMs with AI, and then they would spin up an internal team to try and build an AI PM, and then spend half a year and then figure out that, oh, it's actually a pretty tough problem. The big problem is you've got no idea what's going on in those 200 lines of machine-generated SQL. All of those APIs are effectively unusable. Most of them just do like basic keyword search. Some will do some semantic search, but you have no control over what they actually do. And so what we did with our AI was we trained the AI to click around our user interface on the user's behalf, meaning it explains all of its work because all it's doing is it's doing the same stuff that you could do by just like clicking stuff in our sidebar. We think that for really tricky questions, closed source models are still significantly better than anything open source. And just doing the hardest things is the sexiest thing you can do. There was a lot of buzz somewhat recently about this paper or research results coming out of MIT, where I think they said 95% of all AI implementations fail. And there's definitely a lot of that, where people have sort of wild expectations that you don't do anything and like it's so magical, everything will just turn your garbage context into gold, which doesn't really work.
Yeah, there on the same paper I read it was also that the companies where it did work, it was primarily the higher probability. It was like I think 70% success was when they did not try to do it themselves, but trusted this implementation to some experts outside that already had good knowledge of how to do this. Because of course this is an exciting tool, everybody wants to play around with it, but it is not as easy as it looks just from the box, right?
I think there's a slight shift happening in sort of buyer mentality right now, I think for the better, for us for the better, where like 2 years ago, when you had these early adopters, you had like relatively large companies thinking, hey, maybe we can replace our PMs with AI, and then they would spin up an internal team to try and build an AI PM, and then spend half a year and then figure out that, oh, it's actually a pretty tough problem. So you've got a lot of companies who actually put a lot of effort into building reliable systems for like specific problems. And I think I'm currently seeing a slight trend to people realizing that they probably can't build all this in-house and starting to go into these tools.
And like your platform is focused on data, right? There is these angles. So for example, I do have these voice calls, for example, and some other things. So each of these business processes have if you work with partners that have technical depth and another let's say 100 customers with the same problem, you might get a better result than just trying to build it from scratch.
Yeah, so like we support both the structured data from data warehouses, but we also support things like presentations and videos of call recordings and whatnot. And like obviously we've seen a lot of things work or not work, and we've optimized this across many different customers. So it's a lot easier for us to roll out something that works well compared to if your data team or AI team starts to just invent that, hey, maybe we can build an internal helper for our sales team.
Sure. So let's talk then about Supersimple. What is it like? How it's different than from these chatbots and how it works?
Sure. So Supersimple sort of brings together these two previously separate products, where we used to have business intelligence, things like Power BI, Looker, Tableau, which really focus on structured data that you have in data warehouses. And then we had enterprise search, which effectively does like fancy RAG on top of your unstructured data. But a lot of real world questions actually needed to pull together both. If I want to understand how's the customer's onboarding going, I need to understand what the hell did we sell to them, what's in the contract, what are they talking to support about, what are we doing about those issues, and then marry that together with the quantitative side of this is how they're onboarding their users and so forth. So Supersimple brings all that together into one sort of AI knowledge platform for fast-growing companies.
Okay, but then who is the main user? Is it like a data scientist, or is it like some non-technical user? Like, what are the best use cases?
If we're successful with a company, then it's actually everybody in the company more or less using us. So today our customers use us in basically every team other than maybe HR today. So we've got use cases across like finance, product, sales, marketing, product, supply chain, engineering.
But there must be somebody using the most, like who is using the most?
Honestly, no. It is, so when we enter a new customer, absolutely. There's always going to be like an internal initial champion. And that can be the sales organization, it can be the product one. But a lot of magic actually comes out when you get everybody onto the same source of truth. People start to collaborate more than they were before.
So is it like also a collaboration platform? You see where others have found in data and then they share and then they work together on things?
Yeah, this sort of sharing of like, hey, I was poking around and I saw like there's some problem or opportunity here. Let me just copy that link and share that on Slack with my teammates. That is primarily how we've expanded from these initial heavy users to all of these different departments. Like always, one of the first sets of users is from the data team, because for you to actually have this reliable self-service, you need somebody to sort of take charge of the data models and so on. But at the end, they're really a relatively small percentage of all of the users.
Okay, but then give me some more concrete examples like that you like where you see like some path of questions or queries in data.
Yeah, like a very specific real-world example. The COO of one of our customers was thinking about their sales team comp structure and about potentially changing that. And in order to do that, he needed to basically model out a few different ways of like what does he actually want to incentivize. And what he ended up realizing was he wanted to incentivize what he considered a healthy customer, a healthy long-term customer. And so he did a bunch of playing around with looking at different ways to sort of define customer health. And then when he got to something that he felt like was a good predictor of like basically both long-term success, but also where they wanted the company to strategically focus on, then he backtested that and looked at like, here are all of our sales reps. If we compensated them based on this sort of healthy customers, what would that mean? And so this was like a very specific single day focus for a single person. Or a very, very different use case that was like all about unstructured data was just this morning, one of our customers who has an insanely large set of presentations that they've done for different sales purposes and whatnot. They were in a time crunch and they needed to find a slide from somewhere that would describe the timeline of a specific project that they needed to present to somebody in a few minutes. So he came to us, basically ticked on all of the connected data sources and was like, where do we have information about that?
Yeah, it sounds sounds similar to promises to many RAG platforms, but at the same time, many RAG platforms do not work as well. So how are you handling the spreadsheets, for example, which are usually extremely complicated for any LLMs to, like, if you imagine you have unstructured or semi-structured with kind of like usually humans like to do in the Excel spreadsheet these merged cells, right? They like to add multiple tables in some kind of strange locations. So how are you able to handle with that?
Spreadsheets are very tricky. I don't think we're quite there where we're ultimately going to get to yet, but because where we started from was this BI tool, which effectively deals with tabular data, then we're able to take spreadsheets and like find the bit that doesn't have weird merge cells and so on, and then we can actually have a very, very reliable AI giving you sort of statistical questions on top of that. But I would say spreadsheets are actually like one of the trickiest data sources because it's like extremely low quality.
Yeah, it's interesting because often the people who would make these spreadsheets think that it's very high quality because of all of their merged cells and bolds and colors and whatever, how they signal their information. But AI reads it a little bit different, right?
Yeah, one trend that we definitely do see is when you give a customer access to like a proper self-service business intelligence tool, so things that are meant for tabular data, then there are a lot of workflows that move outside of spreadsheets and into something like Supersimple. But like you'll always have a bunch of floating spreadsheets And I don't think we've quite cracked that yet.
Yeah, but that is a good problem to work on, I believe. Like I've seen some projects in construction business. They have lots of these how you call it, budget spreadsheets, whatever. And then you need to make them structured. That's not that easy challenge sometimes.
So as a spreadsheets like that, they're probably not going to have hundreds of thousands of rows. Those we're actually quite good at. I'm not going to spill all of the beans on the secrets, but some of the frontier models, if you hold them right, are able to actually figure out the structure of things quite well. So the real problem there is first, just need to understand the structure. If you understand the structure, then it's quite easy to extract specific cells and put that somewhere.
Yeah, I know it's moving there, but as you say, this is not always that easy. But again, this is much better to use Supersimple rather than just throw on a data team which have no previous experience with all of this and build it from scratch. I've been working in the field for a while, and you've been, and I think if you talk any expert, they would advise to work with somebody who knows stuff. But somebody might say, why not just use data connectors, MCP, and all sorts of ways to just expose these data sources to large models, and even the GPT-5 can generate Python code, the diagrams, plots, and whatever. Why not go that route?
The big problem with that is, again, basically explainability. If you've got really simple data sets and relatively simple questions, that actually works well. You can quite nicely rely on what ChatGPT will do for you. But if you go to real world questions, then I believe if we take this space of data analytics, there is this very common approach called text to SQL, where you use LLMs to generate SQL queries, which then run on a database. The current state of the art results on that benchmark are between 50 and 60% accuracy, which is obviously extremely bad for real world use. But this alone would be fine if you had the people using this actually understand when it's wrong. The big problem is you've got no idea what's going on in those 200 lines of machine-generated SQL. So it's actually hard even for very technical people to debug analytical SQL queries, and it's obviously impossible for most people. But so if you just take a generic model, it can absolutely technically write Python or SQL to analyze your data, but it's going to have very low reliability, and at the same time, you don't understand what it's doing. So that's been a big focus of us solving for with Supersimple.
How you helped users to understand, because as you also have some low code and also some generative stuff, but what is your way how you help them to understand?
So we really, from first principles, built this set of effectively no-code primitives for doing really tricky stuff with data. So we don't have buttons in our UI to, for example, join, but we've got things to, for example, add a new column, and then a lot of branching in the UI to let you do almost anything based on your data model. And so what we did with our AI was we trained the AI to click around our user interface on the user's behalf, meaning it explains all of its work, because all it's doing is it's doing the same stuff that you could do by just clicking stuff in our sidebar.
Oh, that's interesting. And like an agent mode. And have you tried these ones? And also in the GPT-5, I think in Pro version they have agent mode.
Yeah, have on a very technical level, it's not clicking around, because it turns out that would be very slow and actually quite dumb.
Inefficient way.
It would be. It wouldn't be very smart, and it would be costly and inefficient. So instead, we've sort of created this domain-specific language that the AI interacts with. But as far as the user is concerned, they just click some buttons. And then you mentioned MCP. I think MCP, everybody now exposing their own MCP server, is in general a good thing. But if you go back to these real-world enterprise use cases, you really need to have really high-quality retrieval in order for you to be able to figure stuff out. For your agent to be able to answer questions, those search tools need to be fantastic. And if you just use MCP, then every SaaS tool out there will now have an MCP. Notion has a search API, Slack has a search API. All of those APIs are effectively unusable. most of them just do like basic keyword search. Some will do some semantic search, but you have no control over what they actually do.
Yeah, and then the other thing is maybe the listeners who are not enough technical, the MCP, yeah, I know, like it's often been advertised as like this magical component for agents, basically, where you would have different these connectors connected to the agent, which decides at which moment I should look there or there. But again, this comes back to what you're saying. Is you have actually no control of or very little control of the agent, quote unquote, choosing that MCP, that one in that way or that way. Basically, there might be less reliability rather than doing it another way.
Yeah, I think control over what MCPs it calls is also can be a problem, but just the quality of the MCP tools themselves, like at least in our case, is a massive issue. Like, for example, let's say you're building your internal enterprise intelligence and you think, okay, great, let's pull in Slack data as well. Slack Search API does keyword search, which means if you search for the word cat, you're going to find explicit mentions of cat. But now in the real world, you might want to be like, when has somebody mentioned a pet? And if you use what's called semantic search, which generally is used in RAG, then pet and cat, like they would sort of come up in the same search results. But if you use the tools that these platforms give you, like Slack's MCP, it's not going to find cat when you search for pet. So what we've had to do is a lot of work to basically build up these separate custom search indices and custom connectors for every major platform that we integrate with. And do a lot of work to actually also mimic the permissions at those source services. So if I'm asking a question, then I only get answers about channels that I'm in. And if you kick me out of a channel, then effectively immediately that's gone.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay. So, and how do you deal with low quality documents, like where you have also contradictions, duplicates, for example? What is your strategy there?
It's, again, a mix of many things. So we try to get the most possible context. So, for example, if you've got multiple files in your Google Drive, which sort of talk about the same thing, they state different things in it, then we're going to look at all the data that we have available about those files. So, for example, are people inside of your Slack, have they ever mentioned these files? Have they linked them? What's the conversation going on around there? There's some metadata about like where have you placed these? Who's created them? When were they last updated? So a lot of sort of mini things that add up to give our AI the most possible context. But at the end of the day, it's not always obvious which is the right version. So what we actually do there is we want to give the user as much context as possible. So we might very well tell them that, like, hey, we have no idea which of these two is correct, but this is what we know about both of them. And then it's going to be on the user to figure that out. It could be that they then have some bit of context in their heads that they tell our AI, which our AI is then able to use to like figure out.
The user can choose between some document groups that you find, or how it, or just ask this follow-up question, how it actually works.
So basically, our AI in that context puts together these sort of mini documents for you, which is basically text combined with like inline links and references to files. And so if it finds like, hey, we've got these two data sources that talk about this thing, I'm not sure which is right, it'll basically just look like, to simplify, it'll be a document that says, we have two conflicting data sources for this, link 1, link 2. The user can like obviously click on these links, figure out what they are, look at the full document, and then when you ask a follow-up question or reply to the AI, you can't say that like, hey, everything in that folder is out of scope anyway.
But what about like doing something proactively? You could like if you have everything indexed, you could prevent these situations in the first place. You could just help user to clean up their data sets.
We do that. It's a tricky thing, and we actually haven't like fully productized this because it's something that we've quite recently started to get better at. But yes, so like flagging these problems of you've got a bunch of duplicate content, or it's not clear what this content is actually about. Like, for example, you can have you can have the implementation plan for some customer without it actually mentioning what that customer is. Like these sorts of things, we do actually catch at sort of ingestion time. And then at this ingestion time, or like sort of integration time, like when we actually get the file from wherever it is, we also, like in any case, have to do a lot of pre-processing because these files are often quite low quality. You can have things like you've got a presentation that's got a table in it, but table, for some reason, is actually an image that was screenshotted from somewhere else. So we do a lot of sort of compute beforehand to actually get something that's even usable.
Yeah, makes sense. But then also the question might arise when, especially in enterprise level and regulated industries like financials or something, like what about the data privacy? Who is the data operator, where it's located and where it's sent around, like how you deal with that?
Yeah, so we've again got sort of two separate answers for the structured and unstructured data, because on a technical level they work quite differently. For anything in databases, AI models never see your actual data. So we've trained quite a unique set of models that's able to operate just on sort of metadata about your data models. So these are models that we built, we host, or some of our partners host them, and the user can't like directly have control over. But those models also just don't see anything sensitive. And then there's this other set of models that we use for unstructured data, so anything textual or your presentations. And there we've got our own set of sort of default frontier models that we use for different tasks. But if the user, for example, is a Gemini-only company, then we can absolutely accommodate that. Or if they want to run something on-prem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's been experienced in running something on-prem, like, but is there some additional challenges you see?
In practice, so we also don't really currently deal with like the mega enterprises, but anyone below that realizes that running stuff on-prem is probably not going to be worth it. So they rather figure out who's the vendor that they trust. Now, we do have quite a lot of experience fine-tuning different models. And in production today, for that sort of database type of question, we exclusively use fine-tuned models where the base model is one made by a reputable, like big name such as OpenAI. These are closed source models. We think that for really tricky questions, closed source models are still significantly better than anything open source. So that's another reason where most of the time, or at least for many use cases, you might not want to self-host.
Yeah. This I also experienced. Sometimes, like you have clients. Okay, we want to automate that process. Try out, do a pilot project, and then okay, if I want to do this on-prem, like let's start by 50K server, and and additional other expenses. So that's something to keep in mind, actually.
Especially when you get into these agents where, as I mentioned, like it's highly possible that we'll be spinning up like many dozens, if not hundreds of queries in parallel to figure your question out. You need quite an insane GPU farm to be able to do that.
Yeah, or wait very long time. Yeah, but that's, you're right. So it seems really promising direction, and I'm happy to hear that you managed to build the RAG system that actually serves the needs, and clients stay and like the system. You have these user stories, and yeah, definitely where people can find your system and yourself.
People can find us at supersimple.io. And since my identity personally basically equals Supersimple, then just go to supersimple.io.
Then you can find Marko as well.
You can find me there.
Yeah.
Or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Towards the end, let's do some fun questions. So don't think too much about, but it's sometimes quite insightful. What's the most Estonian thing about you?
I'm pretty quiet.
Latvians usually say that Estonians are slow.
Slow?
I don't know why, actually.
Well, Estonians know like one thing about Latvians, which is we've got this, I have no idea what the origin for this is, but every single Estonian will know the fact that Latvians have 6 toes. And so that might contribute to Latvians being faster.
That is so crazy. Right. I didn't know that, but
go in the airport tonight, ask someone what do you like point at your foot and be like, "Hi, I'm Latvian. What do you know about me?
The Estonians immediately look at fingers.
Fingers? No, fingers. I think it's normal amount. For some reason, it's like it's taught in like kindergarten that Latvians.
That is so crazy. That's something the Estonians get wrong about Latvians.
Yeah.
So night owl or early bird?
Very much night owl.
Coffee first or water first?
Nothing first. I'm extremely dehydrated.
City sprint or countryside hike?
City sprint.
Do long walk or long read?
Long walk.
Window seat or aisle seat?
Aisle seat. Unfortunately, that's the only place I have space for my legs.
Yeah, like you can put legs on the aisle. Call or text?
Text.
Board games or card games?
Card games.
Dog person, cat person, plant person, or robot dog person?
Plant person, actually.
Not robot dog.
I would love like a robotic plant because I feel like they might die less.
Sauna or cold plunge?
Definitely sauna.
What's the tiny habit that have changed your way how you do things?
I think going for long walks to figure out tricky problems is something that I made a habit of.
What's your personal reset button? When something goes sideways, is it also walk or?
It's actually the exact same thing. Yeah. Just go for a walk and you'll figure this out and come back fresh.
Recently, I also started doing something like we have two offices. One office do have long hallways where you can take circles, and then I was like, when I'm like need to reset my brain quickly to do another task, it somehow helps.
I used to use getting coffee as this reset, and I was literally having like 12 cups of coffee a day, which is not great for my heart. So, so I changed that.
That's better reset. Every time you need to reset, drink your coffee.
I was doing that.
Did it work?
Yeah. I think just you don't actually have to drink the coffee. Just like going to the coffee machine.
Sounds very similar to those guys who do you smoke? But this is a similar story.
Yeah, it is.
What's the most delightful thing about your desk where you work?
I've got a very nice, huge monitor. I've got my laptop, I've got my monitor, and then I've got the sea of literally probably 100 different sticky notes, which looks like an absolute mess.
Whoa, sticky notes. That's
it's pretty analog.
What's the most controversial food opinion?
The number one most overhyped piece of food is pizza. Pizza is okay. Pizza's not that great.
Yeah, I would agree. What's the best bad advice you ignored?
Don't start Supersimple.
That is good. What failure are you secretly grateful for?
When I was in high school, I had this obsession with going to an Ivy League school. And because I was working at a startup full-time at the same time, I literally forgot to apply. So I didn't get into an Ivy League school, so I didn't just go to uni at all. And I'm quite happy with that.
Copilot or autopilot?
Copilot.
When you do brainstorming with AI, is it like chaotic or ordered lists?
I try to get everything into bullets.
Everyday tasks that you secretly wish AI would take away.
Laundry, number one, laundry.
But you have the washing machine, don't you?
I feel like I spend 80% of my non-working hours either putting stuff into the washer or taking stuff out of the washer. It's insane.
But that's like crazy. Like I've heard this many times. Like people, even you have this machine, but you want less to do with it.
I think folding and putting stuff in there is quite a lot of work.
Good. Would you let AI to choose your outfit?
No.
AI therapist or AI chef?
Neither. I think AI therapist sounds like a bad idea, and I love cooking myself.
What's the funniest AI mistake recently you have seen?
When we first shipped this sort of unstructured data support on Supersimple, one piece of context that our AI did not have is what my role is. And so when you would ask our AI, like when we would internally use our AI to ask who the CEO of Supersimple is, it replied with the name of one of our customer CEOs.
Oh, that's that is funny. Yep. Is there any red line for you where AI should not take over things?
Not really.
Cool. And the last one, what makes you motivated?
I think I'm extremely motivated by doing things which would, if they work, they will be used by pretty much everyone in the world. And just doing the hardest things is the sexiest thing you can do.
So it was super interesting to talk with you. Where people can find the product and yourself?
You can find us at supersimple.io or find me on LinkedIn.
Yep. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the episode of AI Ranch. As a gratitude for our work, subscribe, share, and like, and see you in the next one.